All right. Hey there, and welcome to today's episode where I want to talk about the fact that the healing process and the recovery process is sometimes, quite often, actually messy. And it's not this linear path that oftentimes people assume that it is. So I'm going to dive into that. But before we do, if you don't know me, my name is Matt Codde. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the founder of Restored Minds. If you are looking for help on your journey to recovery from OCD and anxiety, I have some links down in the notes to help you out with some great resources to get you started, or you can head over to restoredminds.com and take our free assessment. Also, if you benefit from this show in any way, please take a second and help us out by liking, subscribing, and leaving a nice comment on iTunes and Spotify. It really helps our algorithm, and I know that 65% roughly of our viewers and listeners are not subscribed, and I would really appreciate it if you took the time to do that. So let's go ahead and dive in today. So a lot of people assume, when you're really caught in that OCD and anxiety loop, that the recovery process is this linear straight line that says, okay, I just need to get rid of my thoughts and then get rid of my feelings that I don't like. And then once I do, I'll be recovered. And, they kind of come into it with that initial mindset and then try to look for tools to make that happen. And one of the things that we need to understand is that the recovery process is messier than that. There's more parts. There's a lot of things going on here that oftentimes we're completely unaware about. Whether it's certain beliefs that we maintain, right? Our attachment style, just how we handle, what we perceive to be negative events or triggering events, what our compulsions are, how many compulsions we're doing that we don't know, right? How we handle emotion, how the intensity in which the thoughts are coming, right? All these things, have to be factored in. How wired up is our nervous system? Is it impacting our sleep, our diet, our appetite, right? There's all these things that we have to factor, and that it's not that everyone's process is the same, because everyone starts this journey at totally different places with totally different past and histories, all right? So it's not this linear process. And even with something like learning how to feel emotion and learning how to connect with fear and learning how to release fear, it's this process that is, sometimes you think you're doing it right, but you're really doing it from a place of resistance, and you're battling and you're fighting, and then all of a sudden, like, you figure it out at some point, and then you move to the next layer and the next layer, right? And so instead of thinking of the recovery process as this linear straight line that goes step by step by step by step by step, a lot of times it's more, I'd equate it more to the idea of a peeling back of an onion, right? Because when you realize that what we're really doing is letting go of a lot of the stuff that we're holding on to. So, and that could be, again, beliefs and identities at a very core level, emotions, right? Especially old emotion, old wounds that we've been holding on to for some time. Again, thoughts, personas that we've taken on, projections that we are projecting our emotion onto, let alone just like the behaviors that we're engaging in, right? Like, when you understand the layers that make this up, you understand that there's an unraveling process. And it's not that you can really just skip to the very, core work and it just resolves everything else. I mean, I'm sure there are people that happens sometimes, but when you read about cases like, or people like Eckhart Tolle or Anita Majorby, who wrote "Dying to Be Me," they seem to have this level of healing happen. But for the most part, I think most people, like, their ability to heal and healing happens in layers. And it happens in a form of not addition, but removal. Because at your very core is your essence, is your consciousness, is it's your state of being. And that's ultimately what healing is about, is returning to the peace of that. And the unraveling of everything is messy. And so you may go through a period where you feel great, and then all of a sudden a bunch of stuff comes up. Well, that layer is now there to transcend, to work through. And it's not that, I got triggered And so now I have anxiety, and then now I have this new theme popping up that I had when I was 12. And it's like we look so objectively at everything, or I'm sorry, subjectively. And we see it as this thing we have to overcome and work through and effort our way through. And it's, in my experience, it's not really like that. It's actually quite the opposite. It's letting go of the layers as you face them, as they come up. So someone who's, let's say, dealing with a lot of depression as a secondary result of being stuck in OCD and anxiety, first thing that we have to navigate is the depression, right? We have to be able to get the person enough energy to where they're moving. They're getting up and taking showers and cleaning themselves and working out and moving their body and eating and, getting fuel and energy to then start doing the work that we need to do to confront fear. And or then after fear, we start to notice there's a lot of anger there that needs to be, let go of. As we work through that, right? And we kind of work layer by layer by layer by layer. And so it's much better, I think, to look at it as a peeling back the onion kind of metaphor, if you will, than this like linear straight line path. Because I think when you look at it as this straight line path, the assumption is that I'm always supposed to be, my state's always supposed to be just improving. But sometimes what happens is, as we're working on ourselves, and let's say we, transcend a certain fear, well, then sometimes like a certain painful belief surfaces, right? And we might have like a painful memory and belief and, just this kind of whole new experience that comes up. That doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. It's like at that point, that's when you would sit and do the work necessary for that level of healing. And this is why seeing yourself not as this like person to fix, right? To shape into what you believe to be acceptable and what society tells you is acceptable and who these mold you need to fit in. It's not a very healthy way to look at yourself, as opposed to like looking at yourself as like a work in progress, or even like a statue that's being, slowly chipped away out of this, a nice marble stone. You're removing what needs to be removed and letting go of what needs to let go of, so that that statue can emerge, right? That perfect sculpture can emerge. And that's a much better way of looking at recovery, because even if it's uncomfortable, whatever you're confronting right now, with its fear, anxiety, right? It could be things like, again, sadness, depression, grief, anger, again, shame, guilt, right? Whatever's there, instead of looking at it as I need to overcome this to be acceptable, it's more I need to accept what I'm experiencing right now and confront it, so that I can transcend it to ultimately become the best version of myself. And if you stopped seeing and looking at this in this linear path of I'm trying to get to a destination, as opposed to I'm trying to, again, just become okay with me, become okay with being me. And I want to just feel peaceful being myself, as opposed to trying to make myself a version of myself that I believe others will accept or all be acceptable at that time. The healing process is very, very different when it comes to that. And I want to be honest, it's messy sometimes, and that's okay. Give yourself permission for it to be messy. It's not, doing all the things that you've done that's gotten you where you are now is equally messy, right? So the process of being human is messy. It's just what it is. We're all figuring it out. And healing, there's not a single path that's the same for everyone else. So it doesn't mean that the tools aren't relatively universal, but understand that your work is going to unfold for you in the perfect way to help you heal. And that's just been my experience, and I wanted to share that today. And again, I hope it's helpful. And with that, wishing you a great day and a great week, and looking forward to seeing you on the next episode. Hey there, thanks so much for watching that episode. If you found it helpful, we have some links to some other episodes that we think you might like as well. And if you're looking for help on your journey to recovery from fear, stress, and anxiety, either check out the links in the notes or head over to restoredminds.com. Thank you, and talk to you soon.